came across this beautiful quote by an A.M. Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. And it got me thinking about why I got into the business of coaching. And, it was one of the drivers was because I could see so much potential in people that they couldn't see in themselves. And in a way, their stuckness, well, that was my story as well. And I couldn't see my own potential. I could feel my life was shrinking. You see, I was set on a path that was laid out for me by other people. And by that I mean my family, my friends, my schooling, basically the society I was brought up in. And just like everyone else, I was conditioned into believing that life worked in a certain way and that there were things I was supposed to do and that I was supposed to want. There were certain ways I was expected to behave or even to just be. My whole upbringing, my surrounds, they even influenced what it was that I could dream of, what I thought I could dream of, what was and wasn't possible for my life. And it was all very limiting. It was shrinking. Now, of course, once conditioned, everyone else's voices, they simply got replaced by my own. But what was interesting was that I could look at other people and their self-imposed limits and I could challenge them because it was so plain to me that they were capable of being, of doing, and of having so much more than they believed they could because of what had been drummed into them. But for me, well, of course, I had so many reasons, also known as excuses, as to why I couldn't be, do, or have more. Sure, look, that was fine for other people. You see, they didn't come from the family I came from. They didn't have the background I had. They didn't have to live up to the expectations of others like I had to. They weren't stuck really like I was. Now, anyone that I came across who managed to step outside of the norm, who went after their dreams and forged a new path for their life, well, they were different. They were courageous. And look, I admired their courage. However, I was hardly what I would call courageous. But, there was something that kept niggling at me for years. And maybe it was seeing that other people could change their lives. Maybe it was coming across so many examples of people who came from what I can only describe as horrific backgrounds, horrific experiences. Yet they weren't defined by those experiences. They weren't defined by past events. They were living rich, fulfilling lives. And maybe it was finally understanding that if it is possible for one, it is possible. For far too long, I had focused on the obstacles, why I couldn't, why it wasn't possible, why any idea I had wouldn't work, what could go wrong, instead of putting any real focus on what I would love, what could be different and what was possible. Until eventually, my inner voice of discontent got so loud, I couldn't ignore it. And that's when I started to develop courage. That's when I started to try new things, terribly afraid that I would fail, but persevering anyway. And what I found was it was the simple act of trying that was enough to encourage me to take the next steps. And even if something didn't work, there was always something I learned from that experience that helped me grow. It also taught me that I could try something else. That's what I learned, and that's what I teach. That's what I coach people through. And that's the point of today's video. I wasn't born courageous. All those people that I admired for forging new paths for their lives, they weren't born courageous either. Courage is developed, and it can only be developed by trying something new, something scary. And whatever you try, whether you succeed, whether you fail, it doesn't matter. It's that simple act of trying that will develop your courage. Now, only you know whether your life feels like it's shrinking or feels like it's expanding over time. And only you can hear which inner voice is actually getting louder. Is it that of, conditioned limitations, or is it that of your dreams? But if you're someone whose inner voice of discontent is getting so loud that you can no longer ignore it, then maybe it's time to start developing courage. And as Eleanor Roosevelt said, do something that scares you every day. I'm Vera Herman. Catch you next time.